Was a quiet week in Canada, and then suddenly all hell broke loose in the House of Commons, where you had the opposition leader, Pierre Poilievre, standing up to make remarks about the Justin Trudeau government when he let a few things fly that didn't go over so well and was then kicked out of the House of Commons. Watch this unbelievable back and forth.
Transit. When will we put an end to this wacko policy by this wacko Prime Minister?
No. That is not. There are a couple of things which are going on here today, which is not acceptable. And I ask all members, please, to keep themselves, to control themselves. I'm going to ask two things. One, I'm going to ask the Honourable Leader of the Opposition to withdraw that term, which is not considered parliamentary.
Mr. Speaker, I replace wacko with extremist. He is an
The Honourable Member to please. I'm going to ask the Leader of the Opposition once again to just withdraw that comment, please. And I'll invite the Honourable Member. I'm going to ask the Honourable Leader of the Opposition to please withdraw that comment and simply withdraw that comment.
I'll replace it with radical fascist policy.
I am not asking to replace. I'm asking the Honourable Member to just simply withdraw.
Mr. Speaker, I replace the word wacko with extremist.
One last time. To please withdraw that comment and simply withdraw that comment.
I simply withdraw and replace with the aforementioned adjective.
Mr. Poilievre, I have to name you for disregarding the authority of the chair. Pursuant to the authority granted to me by Standing Order 11, I order you to withdraw from the House and from any participation by video conference for the remainder of this day's sitting.
So this looked like an unprecedented moment in the House of Commons. Let's bring in David Krayden, journalist from KRAYDEN'S Right up in Ottawa, Canada. David, I know you were watching this like crazy unfold yesterday on Twitter. Was this an unprecedented moment? What did you make of it just at a high level? And then we'll get into the details here.
Be unprecedented. I'm trying to determine right now if this has ever happened before, even in terms of removing the leader of the official opposition from question period. It hasn't happened in my lifetime, and a lot of other political observers are saying the same thing, that this is unprecedented, at least in the modern age. And it really smacks of the totalitarian sentiment of Justin Trudeau. And this speaker is clearly in the pocket of Justin Trudeau. This was the most partisan decision I have seen him make yet, from a speaker who has made plenty of partisan remarks since assuming this job and this title. And it's interesting that Tom Mulcair, the former leader of the federal and New Democratic Party, was on the air yesterday saying this speaker must go. He must resign, because he said, in my lifetime of politics, I've never seen a speaker act like this. And this is not a conservative talking. This is a former leader of the New Democratic Party. I am absolutely shocked that this occurred. Not just that Poilievre was dismissed from question period unceremoniously, but that he was dismissed for using words that most people would say really weren't that bad.
Wacko.
He called Justin Trudeau a wacko,
Right.
an extremist, and eventually even downscaled that to radical. The speaker would have none of it. Poilievre had to completely retract the statement, completely pretend he had never said it. And Poilievre, I have to say, I applaud him for this. He did not succumb to this pressure. He was kicked out, and most of his caucus left with him, because this really is an outrage. This is an outrage to democracy, because do we have an official opposition anymore in Canada when the speaker can do this? Clearly, he was acting on Justin Trudeau's advice. And why do I know that? Because the speaker had right by his side the standing order relevant to his action. How convenient. He reaches for the standing order and says, standing order number 11 says, I can do this to you. Like he was prepared to do this, like he was ready for this, like whatever Poilievre said was going to lead to this conclusion. I think there's a setup here. I think this is corrupt. This is disgusting.
Well, also the hypocrisy of it spoke to me too, because I've heard Justin Trudeau on the floor of the House of Commons and then in front of television cameras. I mean, not obviously inside of Parliament, but outside, calling Poilievre an extremist. I've heard him use those exact same words, but I don't hear any complaints from the Speaker about Trudeau's comments on the floor of the House.
There were no complaints. In fact, Trudeau yesterday used those same language. He called Pierre Poilievre an extremist who is courting the support of far-right white supremacists, which of course is all nonsense because Trudeau's referring to some chat group on the internet called Diagolon, which nobody even knows exists. And all it is a bunch of guys who get together in the weekend and say absurd things. And Trudeau's accusing him of being part and parcel with this, even though this group threatened his wife, threatened Poilievre's wife at one point. And Poilievre has already denounced them as a bunch of yahoos. So this argument from Trudeau is specious, but Trudeau's the one who calls his opponents racist, misogynist, sometimes even Nazis. Now, how does he get away with this? Why was he not reprimanded by the Speaker yesterday for using the same language that Poilievre used against him? This is not just a double standard. This is obscenely corrupt. And I think a lot of Canadians, not just conservatives supporting Canadians, but Canadians who still think a democracy is not just about having an election every 4 years. It's about having a viable opposition party in the House of Commons and about having free speech. We're rapidly losing our free speech in Canada. And apparently we're losing the official opposition party because the Speaker is ruling in favor consistently with Justin Trudeau.
What do you think is going to happen to Poilievre? Any major fallout from this? Fine? Some sort of other issue where he won't be able to come back for a while? What's the fallout here going to be?
Well, he'll be back again today in question period, unless he's out of the city for some reason. And I can't foresee any fine coming because the Speaker is already looking very bad over this. If he exacerbates this punishment by fining him, it's just going to look worse. What's going to happen to Poilievre? I think he's going to increase his lead in the polls. He's 20% above Justin Trudeau right now, and he's on his way to forming the largest majority government in Canadian history if things remain the same. I think this is going to push him up even higher in the polls because Canadians are fed up with a bully of a Speaker and a bully of a Prime Minister who thinks they can elbow their way through democratic tradition and system in this country of Canada. We expect a little better than this. We expect a whole lot better than this from a Speaker. In the British parliamentary system, is supposed to be nonpartisan. It's not like the House Speaker in the United States, where it's clearly a partisan position. The House Speaker in Canada, in Great Britain, Australia, Commonwealth countries, is supposed to be above politics, is supposed to be nonpartisan, and is supposed to put the business of the House of Commons above all other things, including party politics that he or she might belong to.
Well, we'll watch this unfolding up there in the drama in Canada. David Kraydon, keeping his eye on the pulse of it all. Thank you so much, as always, David. Great to see you.
Well, thank you, Clayton.
Thank you, David.
That's wild.
I know, it's crazy. I mean, the fact that he has like the paper there and he's like, you're speaking right now? I just happen to have this special order right here.
This is my opportunity to use it.
Well, special order number 11. Yes, this means you're kicked out.
You know, he's not gonna put that back in his desk. It's just gonna stay up there. I mean, it's just like how this is now what they do with opposition. It's just like anytime anybody speaks out and they don't like it, just boot them.
Yeah.
That's the new plan, the new way.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you're out of here, polar bear.